Y'all, I need y'all to know that I am nervous and I am really trying. Like, okay, this is a lot harder than I thought it would be. Okay, relax. It's just you. It's just you. Just tell your story, okay? It's gonna be fine. And stop saying What is that? Stop saying Hi everybody, it's me. Well, you don't know who this is because this was my first video. So my name is Shannon Hart, or Dr. Hart. I am a newly matched dermatology resident, and I am currently in my intern year here in sunny South Florida, and I'll be completing my dermatology residency in Orlando, Florida, starting next year. So this video, or I should just start by saying that this YouTube channel has been an idea of mine for a very long time. However, if there's one thing you should know about me very early on as we start this journey together, is that I live up here. I don't live here. I don't live in a house. I don't live on earth. I live in my head. So a lot of times I will have these ideas, these thoughts, and they just never see the light of day because I always think things have to be so perfect the first time around. So you know what? We here and we gonna do this and it's gonna work out. Because why? Because God got me, right? All right. So again, I'm Dr. Hart, incoming dermatology resident. Incoming dermatology resident. I had a little brain fart right there. And I just wanted to share my journey on how I got to this point in my life. I think it's important, not only as a woman to share her story, but a Black woman at that. Hello. So I want to get out there and share my journey because I know that this story will eventually help somebody. I don't care if this video only helps one person. I just want it to inspire you, and I hope at the end of all of this, you understand that it's going to work out. Take a deep breath, baby. I promise you it's going to work out. Because if it worked out for me, it can definitely work out for you, okay? So here we go. I guess I should give a little background about myself. So I grew up in South Florida. I'm from the Miramar, Pembroke Pines area, lived here my entire life up until going into a master's program, and then I went to Alabama for medical school. But we'll get into all them details and how I basically ended up there. For the most part, growing up, I was always academically driven. I wish I was very athletic, but I wasn't. So I knew it was like, Shannon, you just gonna have to make these grades make money for you because there ain't nothing else that you good at. Not in a sense that, not to downplay myself, but I wasn't like playing an instrument. I wasn't good at basketball. I tried. So I was like, you good at school, so let's make it work, right? So that's what I did. Always academically driven. I always wanted to be the best at whatever it was I was doing. And that definitely carried all the way over into medical school, right? So, where should we start? I think we should start at college. Not that there's too much going on there, but I feel like that's where it begins. That's where the tea starts. So I went to Florida International University in Miami, Florida. I remember it, y'all. I wanted to go to UM so bad. They rejected me when I applied. But you know what? God's got a plan. So I went to FIU. At FIU, I initially went there for business. Business. Like, my major was business. And I just thought that I was going to be this fashion merchandiser for a very big department store. That's just the life that I saw for myself, right? Why? Probably because I was a young girl, loved fashion, loved to look good, loved to do my hair, loved makeup, loved the accessories. And it's just like, what child or what female at 18 years old didn't love those things? It's like, Shannon, that don't mean that you should make a career out of it. Like, let's be real, right? So, went to college. I'm a business major. And I want to say maybe within my first week being there, maybe not. It might have been like the first 2 days. My mom ended up having a conversation with my uncle. Shout out to Uncle Terry. And he basically asked my mom, like, okay, so now that Shannon's starting college, like, what is she majoring in? And she was like, oh, she's going to be a business major and she's going to become a fashion merchandiser. And he basically was just like, no, she ain't. Not on my watch. It's what he basically said. He was just like, no, we don't have a doctor in the family, so she's going to become a doctor. Now, the thing about that piece of information is that I have always wanted to go into medicine. I just didn't believe I can go into medicine. I just thought, like, I didn't see anyone in my community from high school or whatever, like, going into medicine. I didn't see that. And I didn't know who I could even talk to for guidance on that. Like, there was no one in my community that was doing that. So it wasn't really something that I pursued, but deep down, I loved science and medicine. Y'all, when I was in middle school, the teacher told us, she said, pick a topic, whatever, write, you know how they like tell you, it has to be 2 pages, double space, 5 paragraphs, each paragraph has to be 5, you know, the whole. And why was my paper the do's and don'ts of plastic surgery? Who was you talking to? Like, who is, like, read the room, Shannon. These are middle schoolers. Like, why was that my topic? Better yet, why did my parents let me write that paper? And why did my teacher let me turn it in? Child, whatever. So that just lets you know where my mind has always been since a child. And that's not to say that I'm not against plastic surgery, nor was I like trying to like, nor was I struggling with like physical appearances. It was just interesting, right? And then also, before I get back into the story, I want to say the first week of college, I was like in this class where every freshman has to take, where it was like an introduction into college. And he offered us the opportunity to just write a random topic. Again, here is somebody giving me the opportunity to pick any topic in the world that I want to talk about. And y'all, my topic was a condition called XP. I'm not going to say the name because sometimes I get tongue-tied, but I will put it here. And basically, it's a dermatological disease, right? So again, my mind has always been on medicine. And looking back at my story now, I can kind of see how God was working in my mind and in my heart to kind of push me in the right direction, but I wasn't getting it because I wasn't deep into his word, right? We'll get into that as well. So back to my uncle's conversation, he told my mom, like, no, she's gonna be a doctor. We have no doctors in the family. Tell her to change her major. So I changed my major. I went to, I don't know, I guess what do you call those people in college? Oh, my advisor. Went to my advisor. I told her, I was like, hey, I want to change my major. I want to pursue going into medical school. Like, what's the best major? And she was like, you can choose biology. I was like, sure, done deal. And the rest is history. So I did okay in college. I definitely feel like there were some distractors. I was a young girl. Like, I had friends, I had a boyfriend, you know, it was a time. So my grades weren't super stellar, but at the same time, they weren't bad. I wish I could tell y'all what I graduated college with, but it was like a 3-something at least. I remember that. But I just remember when it was time for me to apply to medical school, I was like, this GPA ain't it. I don't know if you're gonna get in, but we here. So keep walking with me. So now I graduate college, right? And in my mind, I was like, you know, I'm going to just kind of work for a year. And I then will, I guess, study in that time frame. And then I would take the MCAT. And then I was like, I'm going to take the MCAT. I'm going to have a fantastic score. And I'm going to apply to the top medical schools in the United States. And I'm going to get into the best medical school in the United States. And when I get there, I'm going to be finished with medical school in my mid-20s. And after I finish medical school in my mid-20s, I'm going to enter residency, and there I'm going to meet my husband. And then when I meet him, we'll get married and have kids. And then all of this should have already taken place by the time I'm like 32. I'm 32. I just got to residency and I'm not married. And I don't have kids. But everything happens literally for a reason. And I cannot thank God enough for slowing me down and being like, are you gonna let me write this story or are you? So he humbled me. And I worked as a scribe in the emergency department of the hospital that I'm currently an intern at right now for 4 years. 4. My 1-year plan turned into 4. 4. Again, say it with me. 4. So I'm a scribe in the ER at the same hospital that I'm currently an intern at. Full circle moment, right? You know, back then, didn't see that coming. So as I'm scribing, you know, I took the MCAT first time. Definitely did not like my score. Second time around, do y'all hear my cat? Rocky, I'm downstairs. Okay. So I took the MCAT first time, didn't like it. Take it the second time, still didn't like it. And at this point, you would think something would click in my head and say, well, maybe it's not for you. Like, maybe you got it all wrong. Maybe this just never was the life intended for you and you need to find something else to do. No. So I took it a third time. It was all right, but it still wasn't. It wasn't hitting on nothing. it wasn't hitting on nothing. It's basically what I'm trying to say. And I remember just being like, whatever, let's just apply to medical school with this number and see what happens. Like, you never know. Like, somebody might look at your application and say, you know what? I see you, Shannon. Come join us. So I put in my application for a lot of medical schools. And I didn't get one single invite. Not one. I mean, I got secondary applications, but we all know, like, that's really not the best indicator to say that they like you. So I remember doing like secondary applications thinking like, oh, everything's going fine. Somebody gotta ask me to come in and interview with them. Somebody. Nobody asked me to come in and interview with them. It was quite sad, honestly. Now you guys are about to meet my cat, Paula. If you follow me on Instagram, you have already met Rocky, but this here is Princess P. Princess Paula. Say hi. Can you let me finish my video, ma'am? The people want the tea. No? Okay. I'm gonna push. Thank you. Appreciate it. This is my moment. So, where was I? Yeah, nobody invited me for an interview. And so now I'm just like, okay, well, what is it? Like, to be real with you, it's like I knew what it was. Like, I wasn't some extraordinary applicant. I just wasn't. I didn't do much when I was in college. All I did was literally wake up, study, take exams, and then be a normal college student. I wasn't the president or vice president, the secretary of a club. Like, I didn't have much community service. I had some, but not enough that would make people say like, wow, she really cares. And looking back on it, it's not that I didn't want to do it. I just didn't know where to start, and I did not know how important it was. This is where I started to realize that the way that I was academically kind of spoiled me mentally. Because growing up, I always kind of felt like one of the smartest kids in the room, right? So I've always felt like I never really had to study for anything, right? So here we are in college, and I'm like, in high school, I didn't have to study for nothing. I just showed up to the exam and made an A. And it wasn't until I got to college where I was like, no, you really have to study. So at this point, now I've taken an exam, didn't do great, and there's 2 more exams left in the class. You're not coming out of that class with an A. You're probably going to come out of that class with a C. And that's what happened to me. I think it was like a culture shock when I got to college, realizing like, no, Shannon, you really have to study. So that's why I was like, my GPA wasn't like something stellar in college. But I knew I was a good student. You get what I'm saying? And then as far as community service, one thing about me, which is why making this video was already a task in itself, I am very introverted. So it's kind of hard, especially imagine like you 19, 20 years old. There's so much you have to learn about yourself, so many experiences you have to go through to kind of pull yourself out of your shell, which is why I'm a lot better now with that. But back then at 20, child, you could not get me to walk into a room and speak. Not because I was stuck up, not because I thought I was better than anybody. I was shy. Now my friends, they may disagree with that because I know them. So when I'm with them, I'm a completely different person. But like walking into a room where I know no one is hard. It was hard for me back then, at least. So it was hard for me to kind of like put myself out there and join all these different clubs and kind of want to be like a president, vice president, secretary, because I knew it would involve me to interacting with other people. And quite honestly, that made me nervous, like extremely nervous. And it wasn't until I got to medical school, y'all, where I kind of got out of that shell. I kid you not. We'll get into that, and I'm about to get sidetracked. So let's go back to the story. So again, at this point, I'm looking at myself like, okay, girl, like, you don't apply to all these medical schools. You don't spend all this money and you ain't getting to not one. Not one of them called you and said, hey, Shannon Hart, we would love to have you for an interview. Not one. Girl, let's talk about it. So I really had to sit myself down and think about it. And I remember like saying like, okay, well, maybe, you know, let's try the PA route, a physician assistant. Let's see what that's about. Excuse me. And I just was like, it's not what I want to do. I remember even looking up, what do you call, it's the anesthesia assistants. I forget the exact title, but I remember looking that up because I was just like, I want to go into medicine. I don't care how I'm going to get there, what I'm going to do. I want to get into medicine. And these were all still great fields, but there was something not sitting well with me. I felt like I was giving up, basically. And no matter how much research I did, how much time I spent looking into all these other different fields, nothing registered with me more than becoming a physician. I can't explain it. It's kind of like, you know, when you're hungry, right? And let's say you call your friend and you say, hey girl, what you think I should eat for lunch, right? Now, you don't really know what you want, but you know when you hear it, you're gonna be like, that's it, that's the one. And that's what this situation was like. It was like, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to eat, and I was looking at all these other options, and I'm like, no, that's not it. But when I heard physician, I was like, that's the one. That's what I want to eat. That's the best analogy that I can come up with. And so I was like, well, I guess you're just going to try this again. And so now that I have realized that I haven't gotten into any of these medical schools, again, I'm still a scribe at this point. And I'll never forget, I was scheduled to work some shift at the hospital, right? And I don't know what it was, why I wanted to change my shift, but I remember texting someone, one of my coworkers, and I was like, hey, do you mind like swapping shifts? And they were like, yeah, sure. So because we swapped shifts, I ended up working like in a separate part of the ER called urgent care or minor care. And when I was there was another scribe there as well. And you know, we're just chilling at our little desks, typing our little brains away. And we started talking about the MCAT and like getting into medical school and all that kind of stuff. And he's telling me about this master's program that's in Virginia. Rocky, I promise you, if you jump on my camera, I will fight you. Thank you. That's my other cat, the orange cat. And if y'all know, orange cats are crazy. So me and him, we're talking about like MCAT, getting into medical school, like how hard it's been and all this different stuff, right? And he tells me about this program, this master's program in Virginia, and it's called the MAPS program, Masters of Arts in Biomedical Sciences. Excuse me if I said that wrong, I'll put it here. And he's telling me that with this program, you basically come in with your MCAT score, and based on the MCAT score that you already have, they kind of have these benchmarks of like certain GPAs, a certain GPA you must obtain by the end of the semester in order to guarantee yourself a seat in medical school, right? Oh, let me get a little bit more calm because this is where things start to get get a little juicy. So he tells me about this program, and I'm like, this is it. This is my opportunity, right? So I remember going home that night, pull up my laptop, I look up the program. Child, the thing costs $20,000. $20,000, y'all. I'm like, I ain't got that kind of money. I mean, yeah, you can take out a loan, but who wants to do that? $20,000? So I'm like, I don't know. I kind of like brush it off. I kind of think about it here and there throughout the week and throughout the month. I don't know. I don't remember the exact time frame of when I initially looked up that program to when I actually applied. But all I can say is that one day I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna put in an application. Cause it's not like I have to give you the $20,000 right now, right? I'm like, let's just put in the application. If I get in, we'll figure it out. If I don't, I just, wasted time, I guess. So I put in the application 2 weeks before the deadline. 2 weeks. And I remember getting my letter of recommendation, like the last letter of recommendation I needed, like literally the night of or the night before I'm about to submit my application. And the doctors that wrote my letter of recommendations are actually the two of the doctors that I worked with in the ER. And we'll circle back to that moment. But yeah, 2 doctors in the ER, they wrote me my letter of recommendation for this application. I submitted, and I don't know, it was sometime in the spring. I feel like maybe early spring that the deadline was due, and I submitted it, and now I'm waiting, right? And I remember at this time, I'm in a relationship. And I remember picking up my boyfriend at the time from the airport. And I kind of picked him up. Like, I had this attitude. He didn't do nothing. He just got here. You get what I'm saying? Like, he did nothing. And he was just like, what's wrong with you? And I'm such a baby. I remember I started crying. And I was just like, I still haven't heard anything from this program, and I don't know if I'm gonna get in. And he was just like, Shannon, just wait on God, just pray about it. Like, God got you. He not gonna bring you this far. I don't know if y'all heard that, but my cat is acting a fool upstairs, and I'm trying to have a moment with y'all. He was like, God got you. He not gonna bring you this far just to drop you. Like, you're gonna be fine. And at that time now, I'm gonna be completely transparent with y'all. My faith was diminishing. I had started to get to this point where I was genuinely questioning God, because I could not understand how we all get self-righteous at some point in our lives, where we just think we're so great and we deserve everything and we do no wrong, and anything that I ask for, it should come. And that's how I felt. I was just like, I don't understand why I just can't simply get into medical school. I was like, I ain't asking for a Ferrari. I ain't asking for $1 million. I just want to make it into medical school. So I just was like, why can't he just give it to me? Like, why not? What's the harm in that, right? And so my faith was diminishing. And I'll never forget when I picked him up from the airport, and now we're at the house and we're in the driveway in the car talking about everything. And I'm just like, I don't know if he's there. This is me talking about God to my boyfriend at that time. And he was kind of like confused, like, what do you mean? And I was just like, I don't know if he's really there, because how could all of these people doing all this wrong in the world and they're living their best lives? Like, I'm seeing people travel here, I'm seeing people buy this car, buy that house, and I don't know, blowing a bag in the mall and just, living it up. Again, worldly things. Me literally talking about worldly things. I'm trying to understand God in worldly things. Like that, they don't go together, first of all. So that's how I knew I was lost, right? And yeah, long story short, in that conversation, that was the first time I ever said out of my mouth that I wasn't sure if God was with me or in existence. And looking back on that, like, it's embarrassing. Like, girl, you applied to medical school and didn't get in. Whoop-de-doo. Like, that's not a reason to question God. It's just all in due timing, right? So, of course, back then I couldn't see it. But now I look back and I'm just like, hey, you was looking a little dumb. You're looking a little dumb. So now we, get out of the car. Long story short, day is over. Let's fast forward to maybe like a few weeks. And I will never forget, like, I think I was getting ready for work, scribing still, getting ready for work. And I think I had just ordered some shorts, and I got an email saying like, oh, your shorts have shipped. So as I'm opening up that email, I get another email from the master's program, and all I see is congratulations. And I went wild, lost my mind. I ran to my mama. My daddy wasn't home at the time. I ran to my mama so fast, y'all. Like, because it was like, I knew that this was the beginning to everything I had ever asked for, right? Now, I tell my mom, and I'm like, Mommy, I just got the email. I've been accepted into the program. She was like, stop. Like, she's in disbelief. She can't believe it. She's all happy because now she's like, okay, finally, my child about to get up out my house. So I tell her, like, the program starts in, I don't know, I think I need to find these emails. If I find these emails, I'll like post them here. But whenever I got the email, I did not have long to pack up my stuff and get my behind up there in Virginia. It might have been 2 months. I probably got the email in May, or maybe, yeah, I think I might have gotten the email in May, and I had to be up there in July. So yeah, I had all of June, and then I had to be up there like, I don't know, somewhere in July, like mid-July maybe, right? So she's like, now she's kind of worried because she's like, how in the world are we going to make sure you have the money to pay for this program? But of course I had to apply for a loan, duh. Find you a place to stay and make sure that it's in a safe neighborhood, and then get you up there and get you situated. Like, she just couldn't fathom all of that happening in 2 months, right? But it happened. We made it work. And I packed up all my stuff. I remember I cried like a baby when my friends, it was after they left. So they spent the last night with me in South Florida. They spent it with me. And after they left, y'all, I remember I cried like a baby. And my mom was like, shit, what is wrong with you? Cause I'm not, like, I'll cry, but like, girl, you acting like you moving to Africa. Like, I get it. Virginia's a little far from Florida, but like, I was crying, like boo-hoo crying, y'all. I wonder if I have that video. If I have that video, I'm gonna post a clip of it. So, woke up the next day, jumped in, you know, the truck, had the U-Haul attached to it. And did we have a U-Haul? I probably didn't even have, no, we did not have a U-Haul because I bought everything that I needed up there in Virginia. I just took like all of my clothes and like my hair stuff. Like the hair is coming with me. So we get up there, and I'll never forget, I had 2 roommates, Amanda and Isatu. Listen, again, when I say God has a purpose behind everything. When I tell you I love them 2 girls down, I love them. They are essentially like my best friends away from home. Like my 2 best friends here, Tara and Celise, amazing, love them. They my sisters till we die. But Isatu and Amanda, they were like my best friends away from home. And I love them so much. So I get up there, Isatu and Amanda, we all move into this townhome that is literally on this, I have never been on a street this dark, y'all. Like, and it's a townhome that, of course, like, it didn't come with any blinds. So like when we moved in, the windows were completely bare. And when I tell y'all, when you looked out the window, you saw nothing but black. So someone could literally be standing in the street watching you all night. I promise you would have no idea. That's how pitch black it was up there. And the town that we stayed in was Christiansburg, Virginia. And I think that is important, and I think it's actually kind of, I guess you can say, funny, because Christiansburg, Virginia, is where my real relationship with God started. And I say real relationship with God started because, oh, I didn't mention this earlier, like from pre-K all the way to 8th grade, I went to a Christian school, a private Christian school. So all my life I was taught the word of God. But you know, as a kid, you kind of just like, oh yeah, the Bible say this, Bible say that. Like you don't really take it in as much as you should, right? So I always knew who God was. I definitely believed in him for sure. But was I living by his word? No, I wasn't. You can go stay there. Don't you jump up there. Don't you do that. And why you made that noise like I was hurting you? Because I didn't. So up here in Christiansburg, Virginia, where I find God, and I'll tell you about my God moment in a second. That was the hardest time of my life because it was almost like a bad dream that you could not wake up from. And I hate to sound that dramatic, but I promise y'all that's what it felt like. We literally, and when I say we, I'm referring to my it's a gnat in here. I'm referring to my roommates, Amanda and Isatu. Like we literally woke up, maybe ate breakfast, went to class, and came home, ate lunch, studied until we got tired, meaning if that looked like going to bed at 10 p.m., which is probably never. We probably went to sleep at 12 a.m. or 1 a.m. All right, so we're back. I have no idea where I left off. My monitor basically died and my phone is on its way out as well. So I think I am going to cut this story where I finally realized that I got into medical school. So I think I left off with me just basically getting up to Christiansburg and me saying that it basically was a nightmare that never ended. So we would wake up probably eat breakfast, go to class, come home, study until we just couldn't study no more. And we literally did that from July all the way up until December. Now, granted, I say up until December because December is where we find out if we made benchmarks or not, if we made it into medical school. So it was such a dark time for me because I felt like I said, it felt like a nightmare that just you couldn't wake up from. And I remember just like, I don't know what month it was. It might have been November or maybe October. I know it was like fall time when I really started to feel like depressed, y'all. Like, I just felt like, is this all worth it? I felt like I was study. Granted, I was on track to make benchmarks, but I felt like I was losing myself in the midst of it all. So that was the frustrating part of it. And again, I'm in a relationship at this time and we're struggling with this long distance situation because we've always been long distance, but now I have something to focus on, so I can't tend to my relationship the way that I would want to, because right now I feel like God gave me the opportunity to pursue something that I have literally been dying for, and I just can't focus so much on my relationship. So I remember one day he called me and he was just like, you just don't sound okay. And I started crying. I was like, I'm not okay. I am up here all by myself. Like, granted, I had my roommates, but at the end of the day, it's nobody like your mom and your dad or your best friends from back home or your boyfriend who you're with at that time. So I remember, like, after I got the phone with him, I called my mom. And my mom, when I struggle, the first thing that she's going to tell me to do is spray. Did I say spray? To pray. And she said, Shannon, you just have to pray about it. After she gave me all the motherly advice that she possibly can, she was just like, but you have to pray about this. And I think she told me, like, go sit down in a room or go in your bathroom and just talk to him. Like, go to a quiet place. She said something along those lines. And so I remember getting up off of my bed. I go in my bathroom, and remember, I'm in Christiansburg at this time. I go in my bathroom and I sit on the little mat that you step on when you get out the shower, and I sit there. I remember I balled up like a child, like my knees to my chest and my head down, and I just let it rip. Like, I cried like a baby, and I said to him, I was like, God, I cannot do this. I'm giving it all to you. Whatever your plan is, just let it be done. But I just know that I, Shannon Simone Hart, can't do it. And it might sound dramatic, but this is why I say I had my God moment, because it literally felt like weight lifted off my shoulders. I instantly felt better. And that's when I knew that I had reached a point that God wanted me to get to. I had been running around thinking that I can do all of this by myself. And instead of just coming to him and just asking him, like, what's the game plan? Like, what we gonna do? I had just been doing everything by myself. I thought that I don't know, made it through college by myself. I thought that I got every job that I've ever had in the past by myself. I thought I got into this master's program by myself. And I realized in that moment that God put me in a place where he knew it would be a struggle, and he knew I would not be able to go past a certain point without him. And ever since then, me and Jesus been locked in. So, I remember, like, the finals week comes up and there's this one exam that we have, y'all. Listen, if any of y'all ever go to the master's program, ask about my class, because I think we went down in the history books. Like, we was up there cutting up, because in one class we were supposed to take this exam. Like, it was supposed to be easy. Basically it was going to be based off of, like, we were broken up into groups. We were supposed to give a presentation about a topic, and each group was supposed to come up with 5 questions. The 5 questions that each group came up with was going to be on the exam, right? But my group, we was not my group, our class, we was kind of messy. I'm not gonna get into all the details as to what went down, but as you can imagine, if you know that people in your class are writing the test, people gonna ask some questions about your questions. So long story short, the professor, she just didn't like that, and she changed the entire exam around to, like, I think the exam ended up being based on like 14 lectures. Now, mind you, nobody was studying those lectures because we knew that our questions wasn't coming from them. 2 days before the exam, she goes, yeah, that easy test y'all was supposed to have, yeah, pack it up. It's now going to be based off of those 14 lectures. And we know that each lecture usually has 5 questions from each. So what's that? 5 times 14, y'all do the math. I don't know. So we get to the exam, we take the exam. I remember after the exam, I immediately start pulling up all the PowerPoints, clocking which ones I might have gotten wrong. And I think in order for me to make benchmarks based off of that test, and I don't know if I explained what benchmark was, but basically you had to have a certain GPA by December with the MCAT score that you have. And I think I needed a 3.7 or a 3.8 at the end of the semester, 3.7 or 3.8, I can't really remember. And I remember that after doing all my calculations, after suddenly turning into a mathematician, I think I was only able to miss 14 questions on that exam in order to make benchmarks. So if I had missed 15, I wasn't gonna make it, y'all. I was not gonna make benchmarks. And I was just like, I need to make it. Like, after all that crying I just did in the bathroom, like, we making it in December, right? So we take the exam over. I remember I was talking about it with one of my roommates, Isa too, and she was just like, Shannon, you're gonna be fine. Like, she was one of the people, well, she was the person that instilled in me, like, what's for you is for you and it will never miss you. She was like, whatever God has in store for you, you are not gonna mess that up. I mean, technically you can if you just out here just not trying to walk in God's will, but you get what I'm saying, right? So I remember me and her, we ended up grabbing some burgers from this burger spot. And she just was telling me, she was just like, trust me, like, she was like, I know, like, everything is gonna work out. And I was like, all right. I'm stressing because I'm like, I counted 15, y'all. When I went back and reviewed like as many questions as I possibly could have remembered, I know that I had missed 15 questions. And I was just like, I'm hoping that I'm miscounting. And then I'm also just like, if I'm counting 15, then that means I at least really missed 20. So I remember we get back home from getting burgers, and I don't know why, but I checked my grade portal, and lo and behold, like, the exam we had prior to the one that we had just took, I got an extra point back. So one thing about my program, like, sometimes after the grades are posted, like, they'll review the test to see if any questions were like bad questions. Like, if majority of people got them wrong, they're going to throw it back. They throw out the test question and you'll end up basically getting that point or 2 points, however much the question is worth, you'll end up getting that back. So I ended up getting an extra point back on one of my exams, and I was like, oh, cool, random, but all right. So now it's time to like pack up. We're about to all go home for the holidays, right? It's was it? Yeah, I think it was the end of November. Yeah, it's like the end of November, and or maybe it's early December, whatever. It's time to go home for the holidays. And I remember I'm driving back again, I'm in a relationship at this point. He lives in Atlanta, so I go to Atlanta. I'm driving to Atlanta. We get there, well, I get there, and like maybe around 4 that afternoon, or maybe 5, grades are posted. Y'all, my heart fell out of my bottom. So I check my grades. Y'all, tell me why. Remember I said that I could only miss, I think 14, and if I miss 15, then that means I don't make benchmarks. Tell me why I missed 15 questions. I missed 15 questions. But check this out. Because I got that extra point back on that previous exams, I made benchmarks. So I made it to medical school. I made it to medical school because of one question. One. And so now I'm just like, at this point I'm doing cartwheels. I'm praising God. I'm just like, listen, I am just over the moon. Like I finally get the one thing that I have been praying about night and day, day and night, year after year. Like I got it. And now I'm just like, what do I do now? So of course we go out, we celebrate. And that's how I got into medical school, y'all. Crazy, right? So this is what I mean by just trusting that it's going to work out. So I'm going to end the video right here because I'm going to do a part 2 of basically what my journey was like in medical school, because that's tea. And I want to end it here by just saying, trust the process. Don't rush anything. You will get there. Put all your belief and all your faith in God, because I'm telling you, you cannot and you will not do it without him. I had to learn the hard way. Had me out here crying on the bathroom floor, on the mat, like in Christiansburg, Virginia, sad and lonely. Like, it was ghetto, y'all. And I don't want y'all to have a ghetto moment like how I did. I don't. So trusting God, come back for part 2 because it gets even better. And we'll talk about my journey in medical school. We'll talk about, we'll go through it all. We'll go through first year, we'll go through second year, third year, fourth year. Talk about the match, honey. And how I ended up in dermatology. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. There's definitely going to be a lot more to come. I'm going to try to be as consistent as possible and take you through my day-to-day activities as an intern and then transitioning into my actual dermatology residency. I just want y'all to hang out with me and just see what I do on a regular basis, whether that be actually academic related things, or if it's just me hanging out with my friends at the mall, going to get something to eat. I want y'all to be here and I want us to be friends. But no, seriously, I hope y'all had a good time hanging out with me and I'll see y'all soon.